What does it mean to be a black man in America? It means you're a target for marketing, you're a target for police brutality, you're a target for the bottom of the totem pole in this capitalist society. You are a torch carrier of so much burdens, so many burdens. And you have to teach your children, your offspring, mainly your son, what to do, what not to do. Like, you are constantly at war being African.
Fatherhood ain't a title that you can just drop on somebody. They got to earn it.
Well, it means that, to me, growing up in America is pretty fucked up at sometimes for a lot of youth, including myself when I was in that mind frame. You know, poor educational system, police brutality, black on black crime, being raised in a household that's not conducive to a positive turnout. It's pretty rough, man.
That's trouble. Being a black man in these United States has always been a risky enterprise.
You're constantly at war. For the most part, man, it's a very scary existence, because no matter what situation that you put yourself in, you always got to work twice as hard as everybody around you. You got to be willing to accept half the pay as everybody around you, and that's not fair. You get what I'm saying? This country has never been fair to a black man or to an African man. It has never been, and I doubt it ever will. You know, racism is alive and breathing, it's alive and kicking, but they found clever ways to implement it. Like, they can't just call you a nigger to your face, so they'll call you a minority. What the fuck is a minority? Employment. Two people can go for the same job, and when the employer reads your resumes, if you have an African-sounding name, he will pass your resume. You know, despite the accomplishments that you have or whatever degrees that you've accumulated, they will pass your resume because your name is Shaquan. Or, you get what I mean? And it's just, so I think my mom's, like, again, you know, she named me Stephen, which is very generic, bland. It can go, you can take it either way. You know, so a lot of times, you know, if I do put a resume in, you'll look at the resume and it could be Stephen, and it sounds like, because I know a Caucasian with my full name.
I grew up in East Flatbush, Brooklyn, New York. My neighborhood was pretty diverse. It was, I would say, mainly Caribbean based, a lot of Trinidadians, Jamaicans, Haitians, few Americans scattered around. You had to be tough. You had to be tough. Most of the time you was dealing with people who had a lot of brothers and sisters in their household, so I learned the importance of having a weapon at an early age.
So when did you realize as a young black child you were being treated differently?
Oh, I was 8 years old. Black and white TV. I saw civil rights unfolding in that little screen we had. I remember trying to back out of a room the first time I realized that the dogs were actually snipping at them people, and they were down there singing and marching, and my mind was like, oh, heck no, I'm afraid of dogs, and they would sick a dog on me. And then I realized also the white boys in my class that were whispering nigger behind me. And she said, and by the way, remember this, you're going to have to be better than them, and you're still going to have to train the ones that are going to come in and take your job, because that's what white people do. And I was a little disheartened. But at age 10, I remember the inaugural address of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, because he asked me what I could do for my country. And it was a profound question for a 10-year-old.
My name is Stephen. I go by Ill Flow, I go by Ill Flicks. I grew up downtown Brooklyn, Gowanus Projects, Coney Island. I grew up in Coney Island, I grew up in Gowanus, going back and forth. I had to learn quick. who was a friend, who wasn't a friend. The majority of the time, I was bouncing back and forth between households. So I didn't have what one would consider a normal time to make friends. Unfortunately not. I grew up with my mother, Gwendolyn Edwards. She was a very intellectual individual. She was a member of the National Council of Negro Women. She worked for the Center for Disease Control, the Poison Control Center, like she like to call it. And she read a lot. She read a whole lot. She read a lot. She listened to different types of music, and I think that's where I got my taste or my palate for different types of music. Like she would play Kenny Rogers. She would play Mighty Sparrow. She would play Cyndi Lauper. She would play just a lot of different types of music, and I had the privilege of soaking all of that in. My pops is a very funny individual. He is from Haiti. He's a pastor now. He's a mover. He's a mover. He has a couple of different families. Not necessarily children. He has families. He has a family in Brooklyn, which was me and my brother. Then he has a second family in Brooklyn. He has another family in Queens. Then he has a family in Florida, and he has a family in Haiti. All right. When I was young, my mother got sick, and she had to go away. So I was at the time. I think my brother was just born, or maybe one, and they put me in foster care. I had to go to foster care before my aunt and them could, take custody of me. They had to put me through foster care or whatever. So I did that for a while. I was in I don't know if it's a group home or I don't know what it was. I don't know what it's called now. I can look back and it wasn't a group home. It was one house. Someone took custody of me, and it was real. A lot of that I know now that I had blocked a lot of that shit out because it was crazy. It was crazy. I was like a human remote control. I think I was around 6 or 5 or 7 or something like that, and I peed the bed. So what she did was a white lady. She took me in the backyard and hosed me off, and made me sleep on the floor with no clothes on. And that shit fuck with me. For lack of a better expression, no other way to label it. It fucked with me for a while, and it just made me standoffish, and I stopped trusting people. I started realizing people will do fucked up shit to you if you put yourself in a situation that would allow them to do so. They will, just do it because they could. So inevitably, I got out of there, and my aunt from Coney Island took custody of me. My aunt Sadie, God bless her dad. I didn't learn about manhood. What happened was, you learned the hard way. You go through life figuring, I shouldn't have did that. Shouldn't have did that. And it cost me a lot. It cost me a lot. A lot of things that I didn't know. Look a man in the eyes, firm handshake. No reason to lie. I didn't learn all of those things until after I should have already known them. My mother did the best she could. But she's a woman, and she might know what she wants in a man, but I don't necessarily think a woman knows how to be a man or teach a man to be a man. So I don't put that burden on her. Again, she tried the best way she could, and she did a hell of a job with me and my brother. But it was just a lot, And then for the most part, I had to teach my brother things that I didn't even know, which was a struggle, which a whole nother conversation. It's difficult to try to make sure that he's all right and he knows what he's supposed to know. But if I don't know it, I can't teach it to him. You know what I mean? So a lot of times it was just figuring shit out the hard way, and then hopefully he'll see me fucking up and know not to do the same thing.
The young black man of America, pull up your pants and tie your boots up real tight, man, because it's a war that's been declared on us, and it ain't no war where you just grab a gun and shoot. It's a war. You got to think. You got to strategize. In order for you to do that, sometimes you got to put down the weed and put down the cigar. The life of a black man will not get any easier in the soil and the times that we're living upon. That's why a lot of us self-destruct and want to commit suicide.